for some screaming heavy metal? We rock!
But the evil that men do lives on.
We gonna bang your head!
You are now listening to the Music Mania podcast, a hard-hitting show featuring all things hard rock and heavy metal. And now here are your hosts, the Twins of Chaos, Clint Switzer and Paul Lagana.
Welcome to yet another edition of the Music Mania podcast. So great to have you. It's Clint Switzer, Paul Lagana sitting in here. We have a huge guest coming up today, Chris Broderick, former Jag Panzer, Nevermore guitarist, and of course you know him from his work. He was in Megadeth for 7 years, recorded 3 albums with the band, numerous world tours. We're going to be talking to him about his new band, Act of Defiance, and the album that's been out about a year now, Birth and the Burial. Great stuff, heavy stuff. Chris Broderick, man, great guitar player. Cannot wait to hear what he has to say about his time in Megadeth and more.
Clint, it's always great to be here, my brother, and I just want to let everybody know they can hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Also, they can download the show for free on iTunes.
It's free? That's thank goodness for that. I would hate to think of anyone paying money, but...
I'm not sure I would. But again, no, like you said, we do have a great guest, Chris Broderick. This guy's done a lot of stuff. Megadeth, obviously, and like you said, the new Act of Defiance stuff is brilliant.
It is super heavy. He and Sean Drover, who was his bandmate in Megadeth, they kind of left the band around the same time, about a year and a half to 2 years ago, and now here they are doing this new band, Act of Defiance. It's great stuff. Megadeth goes on. They just recorded their new album. It's just been out a little while, Dystopia, and I think... Chris, for him, I think it was a chance to creatively go in a new direction, and I think that's kind of what he stated in other interviews, and we'll ask him kind of more about him leaving Megadeth, but he and Sean forming Act of Defiance, it's great stuff. They're going to be out on the road this summer. We're going to talk to them about that tour, and I'll tell you what, it is our pleasure to go ahead and bring on our guest at this time, Chris Broderick. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How's everything going in your world, buddy?
Things are going great, and I just want to say thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, man. We're grateful to have you on. Grateful to talk about this tour. I mean, Act of Defiance, the album came out, I think it was about a year ago, and I want to get into that because it's an album that's got a lot of critical, appeal. The fans love it. It's Birth and the Burial. How has the reception been as far as things have you heard, and just kind of what's been the fallout from that album, and how happy were you with it?
I was extremely happy with it. The reception has been great. Everywhere we go, people tell us how kind of refreshing it is just to hear such an aggressive metal album. Some people didn't know what to expect from it. I think when we came up with when we put the band together, and so I think when it came out, I think they were really surprised at how heavy we were willing to push it.
That's absolutely the case, and that goes for me too. The first time I heard the album, I was shocked. I mean, it is extremely heavy, just wonderfully crafted metal songs. And I'll tell you, you of course formed the band with Sean Drover. You guys kind of left Megadeth together, and kind of going back to that, was it kind of a mutual thing at that point where you guys, it was in 2014, I think you guys announced you were leaving Megadeth. Was it kind of a thing, hey, we want to go do this thing, or did you even have a project in mind when you left Megadeth, or was it just kind of something that happened organically?
No, it was, we didn't have a project in mind. In fact, it was a bit of a surprise to me when Sean left, but I think both of our heads were in the same place, and we just knew that it was time to go. When Sean did leave, I was like, that's the right decision, because Dave was just starting to work on his next CD, and you don't want to go into that with when your heart's not in it. So it was definitely a good time to leave. And then when Sean and I were talking after the fact, I was planning on doing my own solo project, and he was of course planning on doing his own thing, and we started talking about the idea of releasing material that we'd written, and then from there it quickly became, hey, let's form a band, let's put it together and get stuff out.
Well, absolutely. It's great stuff. And you guys got a big tour here kicking off in the next month or so. I mean, I think you're going out and doing a bunch of shows with Hatebreed, at least 20 30 shows here. I mean, what's like gearing up for this tour that you guys are going to go on with Hatebreed? I think Devil Driver is also involved in some of those dates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a killer time. You know, Matt knows those guys really well, and it's just, we're looking forward to it. You know, it's going to be, I think, a fan base that we wouldn't normally get, and but I do think we're close enough to what they listen to that they'll really dig it, and that's what we're looking for right now. You know, we're trying to reach out to more and more people.
Oh, absolutely, and I encourage everyone to go check out the album, which is The Birth and the Burial, and it's been out about a year now, and not quite a year, but it's extremely heavy, great stuff, and live. I can't wait to see the show. I think we're in Kansas City. I think the closest you guys are coming to is Oklahoma City, but I may just have to run down there to Bricktown and check you guys out, man. That's how pumped I am about this project. You and you guys just again, really enjoyed the album. Can't wait for the tour. But as we go back to Megadeth, I mean, one thing I find fascinating about you is that your influences are such a wide range of music, from classical and jazz to metal, and you list actually Marty Friedman, former Megadeth guitarist, as an influence of yours. So what was it like? Was this kind of a dream come true situation whenever you did join Megadeth, which I believe was back in 2008?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, for me, it was definitely, something I couldn't believe that was happening at first. Actually, when I first got the call, it was, I almost thought it was kind of somebody playing a prank on me, but I quickly realized that wasn't the case. So I got to work,
Awesome. So back in 2010-11, you guys did the Big Four stadium shows. I believe there were 14 of them. Anthrax, Metallica, and Slayer with you guys. Was there ever a plan to do any more of those? No, there wasn't. It would have been an awesome thing, but I think, that's obviously, I wasn't one of the decision makers in that. I would have taken it all across the world, but, I don't think there was any others planned.
Yeah, that it was too bad. I think there was only 2 shows in America, which New York and Indigo, California, which you guys did, and a lot of success. You guys had a DVD come out from that. The live show was awesome, and kind of a tour I wish would have gotten more play. But you talk about not being maybe a decision maker. Dave Mustaine has just said glowing things about you at the time that you were in the band. He said that you were his favorite guitarist that's ever been in Megadeth. After you left, he's said that he missed kind of that chemistry. This is before they'd even hired another guitarist. But I mean, talk about your relationship, what it was like with Dave Mustaine, and kind of what the writing you were on 3 albums, Endgame, 13, and Super Collider. What was kind of the writing process for those albums, and what just your relationship with Dave in general?
Right. Well, the writing process was very, one where, Dave is Megadeth, and he very much had the reins on the writing. And, but, he would always ask for our input and get our opinions on things. So, we would definitely try and contribute as much as possible. But at the end of the day, you want it to sound like Megadeth, so you're going to the source. You're going to Dave Mustaine.
Absolutely, and that's understandable with a band like that. And I was of course a huge fan of your work with Megadeth. But the thing of that is and one thing I find fascinating about you is, again, I listed the kind of influence. I mean, you were a classically trained player. You have a degree in music. I mean, that's kind of rare in the metal world. I mean, how did the likes, I mean, you list guys like George Lynch, Paul Gilbert, Dimebag Darrell, but also classical and jazz. How did all of those types of music kind of work in concert in forming your own style?
It's one of those things. It's hilarious. Sometimes I wish I didn't have some of those influences, because it's one of those things. As soon as I see a great guitarist, they could be in any form of music, but as soon as I see them, I'm like, oh, that's. I can't believe how well whoever it is that I'm listening to can play, and I'm like, I got to be able to do that. So I'll start working on that, and then I'll see the next guy. If it's a flamenco player, I'm like, I got to be able to do that, and so I'll start working on that, and then I'll see the next person. I got to be able to do some slapping and popping on the guitar. It's a little scattering actually in a way, but it's what I like, so.
Well, you're also a teacher. I mean, guitar lessons, you do guitar lessons, you are a teacher, which I would find a little intimidating as someone like me that has no guitar ability. Like, I would prefer to walk in and have like some geeky guy in glasses and like a receding hairline be my guitar teacher. Like, I don't know if Chris Broderick, I don't know how that would go, but what an amazing opportunity that is for fans to get that, or for people get, aspiring guitar players. I mean, how gratifying is that for you to be able to do that? And is there hope for me, really, after all?
Well, at the end of the day, you really have to just come back and think about why you're playing the instrument, and that is just, that you really love it, you really enjoy it, and that's all that really matters. Besides that, there's no criteria. So, me as a teacher, I always kind of keep that in mind, and I don't have any criteria for the level of student that I have. I do think I have some really good students. But, I also have some students that are more on the beginner side as well. But the one thing that I really enjoy most out of any student, whether they're advanced or they're just beginning, is that they enjoy what they do, that they value, the information that I have to offer, and that they really take it to heart.
Well, absolutely. And that's one thing that I find fascinating about the rock world, is there's so many different styles of playing and so many different ways that you come to the instrument. And that's what I wanted to ask you about, is because someone like Ace Frehley from Kiss has always talked about he can't read a note of music. He picked up a guitar, he self-taught himself. There's a lot of guys out there like that. Then there's guys that are just classically trained, like they were Beethoven or Mozart, that just had this unbelievable ability to read music and to every note means something. And I'm not trying to pigeonhole you with that necessarily yourself, but like, is there pros and cons to kind of either way, or is it kind of just like whatever works for you? I mean, does it matter to you?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, your personality is going to guide you the way that you want to learn the most. And there's definitely pros and cons to each. Obviously being able to read music, you'll understand more fully what's going on and why things work together and certain things don't. And you'll understand, the subdivision of rhythm and time and all of that. But, and through having to take the time and study that stuff, you're also missing out on, let's say, maybe an improvisational aspect where you just get together with your friends and kind of hash it out and, somehow make it work. So for me, there are definitely pros and cons, but at the end of the day, I think it's each individual's personality that kind of lead them down the path. And I always advocate, just learn, as long as you're learning what you're interested in. And then once you exhaust an area, you're like, oh man, I really love just playing these rock songs and learning these tunes. And then after a while, you'll be like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I can play quite a few tunes. What's next? What am I interested in now? And then hopefully at the end of the day, people come full circle and they go through a lot of different material, and then, and everybody's at the same point, but just through different paths.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, the band is Act of Defiance. The tour is coming to a city near you here, starting in late April and then starting again in May, and we just can't thank you enough. One final thing, the band's called Act of Defiance. I wanted to ask you this. Is there a moment in your career that was kind of a defining moment? Because before you joined Megadeth, you played with Jag Panzer, Nevermore. You played huge stadiums, festivals with Megadeth for 7 years. You have this new band that's just, it's really strong, heavy stuff that everyone seemed to enjoy. Is there a moment that just stands out to you where you just almost were in disbelief of what you were doing on stage or in a studio or meeting somebody?
Well, I mean, there are different aspects of that. Yeah, I would definitely say the very first big four was when I was on stage, and I just the overwhelming reality of where I was at, I couldn't believe. It was so awesome to play for that many people, and you could feel the energy in the air. There were so many people that it was great. And then, Metallica, they were so generous with not only, their time and letting us jam with them up on stage, but also, they're like, if you need to use our rehearsal room, just let us know. They really opened up the gate and made you feel like it was like a thrash community as opposed to just, a large bill. Yeah. And then, for me, it's not all about what you do on stage. You know, I think one of my most defining moments was when a kid had come up to me and told me that he was using one of my compositions, this piece called The Downward Fall, for his audition material to get into Berkeley music, college, you know, music of college, college of music. And so it was like, that to me is a really defining moment as well, you know, that you can have that kind of an impact on people.
Absolutely. That's what the genre does. It brings so many people together in so many different ways. And I tell you what, Chris, cannot thank you for enough for joining us. It's been just a huge pleasure. We're going to see you out on tour. We'll catch up with you somewhere down the line out there in the stratosphere as Act of Defiance goes on tour. Defining moment for you guys as well. So we'll see you on tour. Good luck with that. And we will catch up with you soon, my man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Clint.
You betcha.
Thanks, Chris.
See you, Paul.